What McQueen Knew, Part 1. The Thing He Said and the Thing He Meant. On the afternoon in 1974, when Steve McQueen told Chuck Norris he should try acting, Chuck heard it as a compliment about his physical presence. He heard it as recognition of the way he occupied space, the weight, the authority, the quality of not being someone who could be overlooked. He was wrong about what McQueen was saying. He understood this later, years later, through the specific process by which you come to understand things that have always been true about you, but that required the accumulation of evidence before you could see them. McQueen had seen something specific, and what he had said was accurate, but what Chuck had received was a simpler version of the message. The full version took longer to arrive. This is a story about the full version. McQueen had been training at the dojo in Torrance for 6 months when he made the observation. He was a dedicated student, not the most gifted, but among the most attentive, and the attention was the kind that absorbed rather than merely noted. He came on Tuesdays and Thursdays without exception, in the truck with the coffee cup on time. What McQueen noticed, and what he was watching from the position of someone who had spent his career studying the same thing in a different medium, was not Chuck's physical presence. That was visible and undeniable and not particularly interesting to McQueen, who had been in the presence of physically imposing people all his professional life, and who had learned to separate the fact of physical authority from the rarer thing it sometimes accompanied. The rarer thing was this: Chuck Norris, when he taught, did not occupy the room in the way that most teachers occupy rooms. He did not stand at the front and project authority forward into the space. He did not manage the room from a position of hierarchical distance. He moved through it, through the students, among them, always slightly off-center relative to where the formal instruction was happening, and in that movement he was continuously reading, continuously receiving information from the room, continuously adjusting his position and his communication in response to what the room was giving him. This was the thing McQueen was watching. It was not a teaching technique in the sense of a method that could be extracted and applied. It was a quality of attention, a specific and uncommon quality of being fully present to what was happening around you in real time, without the time lag of processing through established expectations. Most people, when they encounter a situation, filter it through their prediction of what the situation will be. Chuck Norris encountered situations as they were. McQueen did the same thing on a film set. He had done it all his life, instinctively, and had learned to do it deliberately over 2 decades of professional practice, and it was the thing, more than any specific technical skill, more than his physical qualities, more than the mythologized cool of the public persona. It was this quality that made what he did on screen genuinely exceptional. He recognized it in Chuck because you recognize your own fundamental quality in other people the way you recognize the smell of a particular place. Not analytically, just suddenly and completely present. When he said you should try acting, he was saying you already do the thing that acting is made of. You do it in a different medium. You can learn to do it in mine, Chuck heard. You have a strong physical presence on screen. The fuller message arrived slowly over the years that followed. Part 2, the acting classes. The MGM classes were on Wednesday mornings in a building on the lot that smelled of old wood and the particular accumulated residue of decades of controlled emotion, the smell of a place where people had spent a long time producing feelings on command. Chuck was 34 years old, and he was the only person in the room who had never had a desire to be an actor. Everyone else, the 10 other students, ranging in age from their early 20s to one woman in her mid-50s, had come because of a hunger that predated the class and that the class was attempting to provide a structure for. Chuck had come because McQueen had told him to, and because he respected McQueen's opinion in the way you respect the opinion of someone who sees things accurately. The instructor's name was Bev Morrison, 50 years old, former actress. with the specific authority of someone who has done the thing for long enough to have stripped away all the peripheral anxiety about the doing of it, and now teaches from the essential. She had the quality that Chuck had always valued in instructors. She told you the thing that was true, rather than the thing that was comfortable. In the first session, she gave each student a simple scene, 2 people, 4 lines each, no context. She asked them to perform it. Chuck performed it. He got through the 4 lines in the correct order, in a way that represented nothing in particular. Bev looked at him for a long moment after he finished. Then she said, "Do it again, but this time, before you say anything, figure out what you want from the other person." "What do you mean?" Chuck said. "In every conversation, one person wants something from the other person," she said. "Not necessarily something large, sometimes just attention, sometimes agreement, sometimes permission, but something. The thing that makes a scene real is that the people in it want something specifically from each other. Right now, you're performing the scene without wanting anything. Figure out what you want and try again." Chuck thought about it. Then he tried again. The difference was noticeable enough that the other students looked at each other. Bev said, "There it is." "I didn't do anything different," Chuck said. "You decided you wanted something," she said. "Everything else followed from that. The physicality, the timing, the quality of listening. You didn't perform those things. They emerged from the wanting." She looked at him with the assessing attention of someone whose job is the accurate reading of people. "You've done this before," she said. "Not in performance, in something else." "In teaching," Chuck said, "and in competition." She nodded slowly. "Same mechanism. In a martial arts match, you're continuously wanting something, the opening, the specific moment. And in your teaching, you're continuously wanting something from your students, their understanding, their progress. The wanting makes you present." She paused. "Acting is the same. The only difference is that the wanting is scripted rather than real, but it has to be felt as real." Chuck absorbed this. He had been in the room for 1 class. He already understood that McQueen had been right, and also that what McQueen had sent him here to learn was not what he had thought. Part 3. What the camera sees. The second month, Bev brought in a video camera. This was not common practice in 1974. Video was still expensive and the technology was transitional. But she had access to equipment through the studio, and she had a specific pedagogical reason for using it with this group. The camera, she told them, sees things you don't know you're doing. It also sees things you think you're doing that you're not doing. It is the most honest teacher you'll encounter because it doesn't have preferences about what it finds. She filmed each student doing a simple monologue, 60 seconds, memorized, delivered to the camera rather than to another person. Then she played the recordings back one at a time and said very little. She let the recordings speak. Chuck's recording was the 7th of 10. He watched it with the specific quality of attention he brought to the footage he used to study competition, the dispassionate, analytical attention of someone who is looking for information rather than for confirmation. He watched himself deliver the 60 seconds, and he saw several things simultaneously. He saw what Bev had said was true. The camera recorded something that was not visible from inside the experience of doing it. He could see the moments where the wanting was present and the moments where it wasn't, where he drifted from genuine engagement with the imagined situation into a performance of engagement, and the performance was visible as distinct from the thing itself. But he also saw something else, something that Bev had not mentioned and that he was not expecting. He saw that when he was genuinely engaged, when the wanting was real and the presence was complete, he looked like someone in the middle of something that mattered, not a performance, an experience. And the quality of that experience was communicative in a way that the footage made unmistakable. You could feel, watching it, that something was happening to this person. He had seen this quality before. He had seen it on the faces of his students when they finally understood a technique, when the movement stopped being something they were trying to do and became something they were doing. The shift was visible in the body, audible in the breath, present in a way that could not be faked because it was not a thing you performed, but a thing that happened to you when the conditions were right. McQueen had this quality on screen. Chuck had seen it in his films, the specific and particular quality of McQueen being somewhere rather than performing somewhere. It was what made watching him feel like witnessing rather than entertainment. Chuck looked at his own recording and saw moments of it, not consistently, but present without his having done anything to produce it, other than genuinely wanting something from an imagined conversation. Bev watched him watching himself. When the recording ended, she said, "Well, it's intermittent," Chuck said. "The real thing." "Yes," she said, "that's the work. Making it consistent." She paused. "But you have it. Not everyone does. Some people can learn every technical aspect of acting and never produce it. You have it already and you need to learn to sustain it." "Where does it come from?" he said. Bev thought about this. "From knowing what you want," she said, "and from being genuinely interested in whether you're going to get it." She paused. "Most people come to a scene worried about how they look doing it. You came to this scene wanting something from the other person. The camera can't tell the difference between a real want and a performed want, but it can tell the difference between wanting and not wanting. And you wanted." Part 4. The conversation he was having without knowing it. 3 months into the classes, on a Tuesday morning after karate class, McQueen stayed to talk. This was not unusual. They talked regularly after sessions, had been talking regularly since McQueen joined the dojo. But this conversation had a different quality, an intentionality that Chuck recognized as distinct from the ordinary post-session exchange. "How's the acting going?" McQueen said. "Better," Chuck said. "I'm beginning to understand what Bev is teaching." "What is she teaching?" Chuck thought about how to say it accurately. "That the technique is in service of the wanting," he said, "not the other way round. Most of what people call acting technique, timing, physicality, voice, those things emerge correctly when the wanting is present. When they're taught as techniques independent of the wanting, they produce performance rather than presence." McQueen looked at him with the quality of someone who has said the same thing in different words and is hearing his version returned in a new formulation. "Yes," he said, "that's it." "It's what you do," Chuck said, "on screen." "It's what you do," McQueen said, "in the dojo." "I told you that in the beginning. You told me I had presence," Chuck said. "No," McQueen said. "I told you you could project something on screen. Those aren't the same thing." He paused. "Presence is a physical quality. Anyone can develop presence. It's mostly confidence and physicality and the willingness to take up space. What I saw in you was different. You don't just take up space. You pay attention to the space. You receive the room. You adjust continuously to what the room is giving you." He looked at the dojo floor. "That's not presence. That's something harder." "What do you call it?" Chuck said. "I don't call it anything," McQueen said. "I've never had a name for it. It's the thing I'm always looking for when I'm on a set with another actor. Whether they're actually in the scene or whether they're performing the scene, whether they're receiving what I'm giving them and responding to what's actually there rather than to what they expect to be there." He paused. "Most actors, even good ones, are responding to their prediction of what the other actor will do. You respond to what's actually there. That's a different thing and it's rarer." Chuck thought about this. He thought about the tournament floor, the quality of attention he brought to a match, the way he read not the opponent's history or their statistics, but the specific information the current moment was providing about the current movement. The way he had always been more interested in what was actually happening than in what was supposed to happen. "Competition," he said. "That's where I developed it." "Probably," McQueen said. "And teaching. When you teach, You're reading 20 people simultaneously and adjusting in real time. That's the same skill. He looked at Chuck. It crosses media. That's the thing I was trying to tell you. You have a skill that works in a dojo and works on a film set and probably works in most other situations where you need to be genuinely present to what's happening rather than to your prediction of it. Part 5. The first film. The first major film was Breaker. Breaker, in 1977. Low budget, fast production, a script that Chuck read and understood immediately was not strong in the ways that strong scripts are strong. The dialogue was functional, the story was conventional, the characters were types rather than people. He took it because McQueen had told him that the first film was about finding out whether the thing that worked in the room worked on camera, and that finding out required doing it, and that you couldn't find out any other way. The quality of the first film was secondary to the information the first film would give you about the primary question. He found out on the second day of shooting, in a scene that should have been unremarkable. A brief exchange with one of the supporting actors, scheduled for an hour in an exterior location on the edge of a California highway with a minimal crew and the flat bright light of a summer afternoon. The scene was 2 minutes long. The supporting actor had 4 lines, Chuck had 6. The director, who was competent and experienced and understood exactly what he was making, wanted the scene in 3 takes. It took 4. Not because anything went wrong, because in the 3rd take, the thing that Bev Morrison had been teaching him to make consistent was consistent for 2 full minutes, and the director, who had been planning to call cut after take 3, held the camera running for 30 seconds past the scene's end because he was watching something on the monitor that made him reluctant to interrupt it. The 4th take was insurance. In the drive back to the unit base after the location work, the director, a man named Don Hewlett, pragmatic, straightforward, with the specific authority of someone who had made a lot of films and had a clear internal calibration for what he was getting versus what he had expected, said to Chuck, "You know what you're doing." It wasn't a question. "I'm learning," Chuck said. "You know what you're doing," Hewlett repeated. "What Bev is teaching you, you're doing. Whatever you were doing in the karate, it translates." He paused. "The camera likes you. Not because of how you look, because of where you are when the camera's rolling." He looked at the highway. "You're in the scene, not next to it." Chuck looked at the highway too. He thought about McQueen, who had sat in a class in Torrance and watched him teach, and had seen something specific and had said, "You can project something on screen," and had meant, not projection in the theatrical sense, but a different kind of projection, the projection of genuine experience, of real-time reception of what was happening, of being in the moment rather than adjacent to it. That was what McQueen knew. That was what McQueen had seen. That was what McQueen had told him to take somewhere new. Part 6. The understanding that arrived late. He was 37 years old when Good Guys Wear Black came out and earned $18 million on a $1 million budget, and the critics who had dismissed Breaker, wrote different things this time, not all of them positive, but more interested, more engaged with the specific question of what Chuck Norris was doing on screen that was different from the martial arts action films that had preceded him. One critic, a woman named Janet Carr, who wrote for a film journal that Chuck did not read regularly but that his agent had marked for him, wrote something that he read 3 times when he encountered it. She wrote, "Norris does something uncommon in the action genre, which is that he appears to be genuinely present in scenes rather than moving through them. This is easy to undervalue and hard to fake. The camera registers the difference between a performer who is inhabiting a moment and one who is executing a sequence, and Norris, whatever his limitations as a formal actor, consistently inhabits." He put the clipping in the desk drawer alongside the composition notebook that held the origins of Chun Kuk Do. He did not put it there as evidence of the critic's accuracy, though the critic was accurate. He put it there because it was the clearest articulation he had encountered of the thing McQueen had seen and described in simpler terms 3 years earlier. You can project something on screen. What McQueen had actually meant, you are already doing the thing that acting is. You are continuously inhabiting rather than executing. You receive what is actually there rather than responding to your prediction of it. The camera will register this, the audience will feel it without knowing why. He had understood you have presence, and it had taken him 3 years to understand you already do the thing. This was the full version of the message. He taught his classes the following morning at 5. He moved through the room in the way he always moved through it, reading the students, adjusting in real time, receiving what the room was giving him rather than projecting what he expected the room to contain. He had been doing this since before he knew what it was. McQueen had known what it was. McQueen had always known what it was, and had known it was valuable, and had known the only way to make Chuck know it was to send him into a medium where the camera would show him what he was doing. This was the thing McQueen knew. This was the thing McQueen had given him, not on the afternoon in the dojo when he said you should try acting, but across 3 years of Tuesday and Thursday classes, across the conversations after sessions, across the specific and sustained gift of being seen accurately by someone who understood what they were seeing. Chuck stood in the 5 o'clock dojo and taught the forms and thought about McQueen and understood that the greatest teacher he had ever had been his student. Some gifts work that way. Opialog, the thing that crosses media. Steve McQueen died in November 1980 at 49 years old. He did not live to see Good Guys Wear Black or any of the subsequent films in which the quality he had identified and sent Chuck toward was visible on screen in its most consistent form. He had seen Breaker, which was the first film, and he had called Chuck after seeing it and said, in the dry and undramatic manner he brought to confirmations, "There it is, you found it." Chuck had said, "I'm still learning what it is." "You don't learn it," McQueen had said. "You recognize it. The learning is making it consistent. The recognition was already there. I just showed you where to look." This was the last conversation they had before the illness progressed beyond what McQueen would permit to be discussed. After that, the calls were about other things, the faith McQueen had found, the specific quality of peace he seemed to have made with his situation, the conversations of two men who understand they are running out of conversations and who choose, in that understanding, to spend what remains on the things that have always mattered rather than the things that are merely pressing. What McQueen knew, finally, was this, that the capacity for genuine presence, for being fully in a moment rather than managing it from a slight distance, is not a skill in the technical sense. It cannot be taught as technique. It can be recognized, named, given a direction, sent somewhere new. But the person who has it already has it, and the person who doesn't cannot acquire it from the outside. Chuck Norris had it when he walked into the dojo in Torrance as a 23-year-old with a sleeping bag and a 30-cent composition notebook and a plan. He had it in the karate, and in the teaching, and in the specific way he moved through rooms and received what rooms were giving him. He had carried it without a name for it, without understanding that it was transferable, without seeing that the thing he was doing in one medium was the same thing done in a different one. McQueen had named it, had pointed it in a direction, had known, with the specific clarity of someone who sees the essential thing accurately, that the only thing needed was the recognition. Chuck spent 30 years giving it back in every medium available to him: the dojo, the screen, the classroom, the room above the sporting goods store where a federation was born. In each of them the mechanism was the same: be where you are, receive what is there, respond to what's actually happening. That was what McQueen knew. That was the whole thing.